Hundreds of peaceful protesters gathered near the White House.
Hundreds of peaceful protests gathered near the
Washington, D.C. today on the 10th day of
White House in Washington, D.C. on the 10th day
demonstrations against racism and police brutality,
of demonstration against racism and police brutality,
spawned by the death of a black man in police custody in
spawned by the death of a black man in police custody
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Many in the crowd walked along the newly named Black
Many in the crowd walked along the newly named
Lives Matter Plaza, a
Black Lives Matter Plaza,
short distance from the White House.
a short distance from the White House.
Early in the day, U.S. President Donald Trump said
Early in the day, U.S. President Donald Trump
on Twitter that as a result of peaceful
said on Twitter as a result of peaceful
protests on Saturday, he'd ordered the National Guard
On Saturday, he ordered the National Guard
to start withdrawing 5,000 troops from Washington
to start withdrawing 5,000 troops from Washington
that had been called to the city to quell violent demonstrations that erupted a week ago. More than 10,000 people protested
More than 10,000 people protested
peacefully in Washington on Saturday. Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser said no
Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser said no.
protesters were arrested on Saturday, but
Protesters were arrested on Saturday.
Speaking on Fox News Sunday, she
Speaking on Fox News Sunday,
attacked Trump and his administration for
she attacked Trump and his administration
flooding the city with federal police and National Guard troops in the last
and National Guard troops
week to quell protests
in the last week to quell protests
that at times became violent. She said, this is her quote,
She said, this is her quote,
what we saw last week was basically an invasion of our city.
What we saw last week was basically of an invasion of our city.
And once again, that's Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel.
Once again, that Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Anti-racism protests were held across the world Sunday.
Anti-racism protests were held across the world Sunday.
Tens of thousands of demonstrators turned out in
Thousands of demonstrators
Rome, Berlin, London, and Paris.
Turned into Rome, Berlin, London, and Paris.
While some protests were sparked by the killing of George Floyd in Africa.
While some protests were sparked by the killing of George Floyd,
an American man in Minneapolis,
an Afro-American man in Minneapolis,
European countries are also citing their own
European countries are also citing their own instance of racist violence.
Instances of racist violence. Donning masks, thousands of people went to Rome's People's
Donning masks, thousands of people went to Rome People's Square
on Sunday in the city's first major demonstration against racism. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets in London as well.
Tens of thousands of protesters took to the street in London as well.
Some were outside the U.S. Embassy.
Some were outside the U.S. Embassy.
The organizers noted they wanted to address racism in Britain.
So organizers noted they want to address racism in Britain.
The slogans was the UK is not innocent.
One of the slogans was the UK is not innocent.
From Washington, this is VOA News. Latin America, specifically Brazil and Mexico, are
Latin America, specifically Brazil and Mexico,
seeing increases in the number of coronavirus-related cases and deaths, as the global death toll topped 400,000.
Related case and the death as the global death toll topped 400,000 today.
Globally, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases is more than 6.9 million.
Cases is more than 6.9 million according to the Johns
Hopkins University's Coronavirus Research Center.
Hopkins University Coronavirus Research Center.
The United States is the world's hardest hit nation. It has now more than 110,000 deaths.
The United States in the world hardest hit nation. It has now more than 1,000 deaths and more than 1.9 million confirmed cases of the virus.
More than 1.9 million confirmed cases of the virus.